Hey guys, before this video starts, there's just a couple quick things I want to address. First of all, I want to talk about the sort of state of dormancy that my channel's been in over the last couple weeks. For a while now I've been trying to stick to daily uploads, and for the most part I was succeeding at that, but ultimately a large combination of minor setbacks prevented me from getting anything out at all over the last couple weeks. However, as you can see, I am now back, and hopefully I'll be able to stick to my old daily schedule from here on out. Furthermore, some of you may also be wondering where the rest of the build for this kit went. Well, the fact is, yesterday I actually did record the rest of the build for this model. And it was actually a pretty cool build too. There was some really neat stuff going on with this guy, and I'm going to talk about it a little later in the main review as well. But basically what happened, and I don't know if this is because the camera's battery died, or if something on the memory card got corrupted, or if it just shut off for some reason, or what. Or maybe I just forgot to press the record button, but for some reason, I have no footage for the second half of the build. I'm 90% sure I recorded it, but I went back, looked through the memory card, and there was nothing. Obviously, I didn't want to just put up half a video since that would be kind of a crappy way to come back after such a long hiatus. So I'm just going to push forward with the review. Hopefully you guys understand, and with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to Channel 2S, your home for Gunpla news, reviews, and more. I'm your host, Second Soundwave, and today we're looking at the completed, high-grade Gundam Build Fighters Papagguy. Now, the Papagguy is not the first of its kind, not by a long shot. We've gotten at least 4 or 5 other Beargguys before this, but this is the first Beargguy that I ever built for myself. And because I'd only seen a couple reviews of this model, I really wasn't exactly sure what I was getting myself into when I started out on the build. Initially, I was just a little bit disappointed with the final model. Now obviously the Papagguy, as well as just the Beargguy lineage in general, are something of a joke model, so of course they're not going to be something that you should expect a lot from. But even with that, I was a little surprised by the general lack of detail this kit has. It's a lot of just big, smooth, flat, curved parts with no kinds of raised detail at all. And to be perfectly honest, there isn't really even much of a point to panel lining this kit because there's just not a lot to line. I mean, the only real options you have are lining those little areas there, which I suppose you could do, and also those little lines on the legs. And then you come down to the feet, and that's where all the detail went. It's all right here, and it looks great, but you're never going to see it. And on top of that, articulation for the Beargguy is not that great. The head cannot tip back at all, and it only comes down to about there. It does rotate a full 360 degrees, and you also have a few more points for articulation on the head. There's these little ear pieces that can move back and forth, and these can also rotate, so you can get some nice emotions out of those. And beyond that, he does also have an opening mouth, and that little port there is also sized so that if you want to, you could stick a little beam saber blade in there and have him shooting a beam of energy from his mouth. And then when you come down to the shoulders, they have these weird little floating pieces that kind of go around them, and they're supposed to kind of continuously cover up the joint as you're moving the arm, but they end up just kind of flopping around, and there's really no way to hold them in place, and honestly, I'm not a fan of them at all. I'm just going to do that. There. A little bit of a gap, but I'd rather have that than that. Also, speaking of this shoulder, you'll notice that there's a bit of a gap right here. Well, that's because I messed up. When I was building this kit, I slid this armor piece facing this way when it should have been facing this way. And the slots that are supposed to be lined up when it's facing this way almost line up when you have it facing this way. And because they almost line up, you can actually almost fit this on, and it squeezes on very tightly. And then it won't come off after you've realized your mistake. So yeah, I basically ended up fusing the armor on completely backwards, and what I ended up having to do was just kind of cut out a notch in the other side of the armor so that I could still fit his arm on there. And if I stick it in here, it still works fine. It has the exact same range of motion it had before. It just now has this weird little piece coming out of there. I suppose I could fill it with something, or I could just use those terrible, you know, cuff holder things, because while they are bad at their job, they do at least kind of cover up the hole. Now as for the actual arm mobility of the kit, you're not going to get a whole lot. The arms do come up to here, and then of course you do have a sort of full rotation. I mean, once you bring it up to here, it does knock against his head, but you can swing it past there. And then at the elbow, you have this. That's all you're going to get, just that. And then you have a swivel below that, or I guess it's above the, no, it's right at the joint actually. There's a swivel right at the joint, there's a ball joint, and then a hinge below that. And then the paws can rotate if you want to change those for some reason. Now the torso, because it's basically just a big hollow shell, has absolutely no movement to it whatsoever, and when we come down to the legs, they're only a little bit better than the arms. He can at least come pretty close to a full split, which does look nice. He also has a good enough range of front and back movement. And his legs are still holding up surprisingly well with a very nice 180-degree knee bend. But because of how big and clunky this guy's lower legs are, that barely gets his leg off the ground at all. And then below that, we have a very surprisingly high range of foot movement. It can go from here all the way to here, it can tip side to side, and it even has a bit of a pivot motion to it, all thanks to a hinge and double ball joint combination that give you a surprisingly good amount of mobility and means this guy is always going to have a pretty stable foot base. But aside from having decent leg articulation, there's really not much good I can say about this guy's posability. There just isn't much here to work with. So now it's time to move on to accessories, and I'm not going to lie, they're kind of half of why I bought this kit. Because if you look at him right now, you might notice he's got a bit of a motif going on. He's got a little plastic mustache right here on his face that is also movable if you want to make him look a little disheveled. And he also has a little sticker bow tie on his chest. Well, that's not all the gentlemanly accessories he has, because you also get a Beargguy sized top hat. This thing is adorable. It's got little slots right in there, so you can just plug it right over here, and it just clips right down over his ear, and it makes him look absolutely dapper. And just for laughs, I did try to throw the top hat on a Figma just to see how well it's sized with it, and as you can see, it is quite a bit too large to fit on a 1/12 scale figure. But if you have something that's bigger, like 1/8 scale, I suppose that could wear the hat, possibly, if that's a thing you want to do. And then to complete his gentlemanly look, you do get a cane, and this cane has a peg coming out of the side that can peg into the holes on one of his hands. But while the Papagguy does look very classy with his cane, hat, mustache, and bow tie, I still feel like he doesn't quite cut it. Let's see what else he has for accessories. Okay, so the next set of accessories you get are these little segmented sections, and these all kind of plug together to make this one big bendy tentacle arm, and you can also split these off and just use one of the bottom ones, one of the middle ones, and one of the top ones to make a smaller arm. You can make two smaller arms or one bigger arm. It's kind of just up to you. And what you're supposed to do with these is you're supposed to pull the arm off, and then attach the new arm into the ball joint there, and then attach the Beargguys arm onto the other end of the thing. And when you got it all put together, it should look something like this. At least this is what it's supposed to look like. In reality, you get this. The part of this arm extension that connects into the upper arm is way too small, and there's just no friction here whatsoever. It does hold itself in place, but only barely. And while all the rest of the joints on this are fairly tight and could probably hold it up fine if this last joint worked, the fact that this one joint here, the one that needs to hold the most weight, has absolutely no friction to it, means I can't say much of anything positive about this accessory. Now that's all the weapons that the Papagguy comes with, but he does come with a few other accessories for changing the appearance of the kit. First off, you get this alternate faceplate with some sculpted and angry eyes, and you do get some black stickers to kind of accentuate those eyes. And on top of that, you also get a very large sticker sheet that has a lot of different eye options. We got sort of annoyed eyes, we have square eyes, closed eyes, couple different options for those, and also a couple necktie options if you don't like the bow tie. So you have a few different customizing options with this. I say customizing very loosely since all you're really changing is the stickers, but if you want to change the way your Beargguy looks, I suppose you could have some fun with those. And to change the faceplate out, it's very easy. You just kind of pull the face off, and then you pull the other part of the face off, and then you stick the angry face on, and then you put his mouth back on. And now he's angry, and he's just yelling at you. He's mad at you for some reason. You stepped on his lawn, and now he's getting ready to beat you with his cane. So the final accessories you get with this kit are a pair of different fingers. Now these go underneath those gray parts in the hands, and you can take them out and swap them out, but it's a little bit annoying to do so. They do fit in fairly tightly, so I'd honestly recommend just building the kit with one of each like I did right here. And basically what the difference between these parts are is that the solid ones look a little nicer, but the ones with the holes are also required if you want to have him hold his cane. But since he only has one cane, and as far as I know that's really the only accessory he can hold in these hands, there's really no reason to put it on both sides. So again, I just kind of recommend one of each. Probably going to be your best option. Now the Beargguy and its variants do seem to be very popular kits with beginners, and I suppose I could see why. I mean, it is a very different looking Gundam. It's a very novel design. It's something that's just quirky and random enough to get someone who wouldn't be normally a Gunpla builder into Gunpla. However, I really don't recommend using this kit as a starter to get someone into Gunpla. First of all, the nubs on this guy are pretty bad. The Beargguy uses the high-grade Universal Century Papagguy mold, which is a pretty old high-grade, so they really weren't that concerned about gate placement, and as a result, if you just straight build this guy, you're going to have lots of ugly little nub marks all over it. And even the new parts for the head have their fair share of ugly marks. Now, I don't know if this is because the kit uses ABS plastic for the internal parts or because this is the trillionth time this mold has been printed, but some of the joints on this kit really don't feel that great. I'm especially thinking of the ankles when I say this, as there's quite a bit of floppiness here. The head's also a little loose, and of course you saw that whole tentacle arm and how much of a mess that was. And that combined with the restrictive articulation and these floppy little shoulder cuffs makes posing this guy not that great. So because of everything I've mentioned so far, I was fully planning on not recommending this model. It's really not that great of a straight build experience, and if you're a beginner, there are much better kits you could start out with. So like I said, from a straight build perspective, I was not too impressed with this model. However, I don't think you should throw the Beargguy to the curb just yet, because there is actually much more to this model than what you see on the surface. Because this high-grade model that's based off a mold from the mid-2000s has a freaking inner frame. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where the sculpting budget for the Papagguy, and by extension the Beargguy, went. Underneath all the armor panels on both arms and both legs is a fully detailed inner frame, and it looks fantastic. It's got tons of detail, and it is the absolute last thing you would expect to see underneath the skin of such a cute, unassuming looking mobile suit. And as soon as I saw this, the customizing wheels started turning in my head. This inner frame would look awesome if it was fully painted up and detailed. In fact, it actually looks great fully exposed without any armor on it. And if you're at all familiar with the Beargguy, you know that there are a ton of customs out there. People have just turned this guy into every fictional character you can imagine. And of course, painting him to match your favorite comic book character or movie character is fun and all. But with this inner frame, that just adds a whole new slew of options. Cyborg Beargguy, Steampunk Beargguy, Terminator Beargguy. You could do all sorts of stuff with this inner frame. But the customizing potential on this kit goes even further than that, because this guy's entire head and torso are nothing but a couple of big hollow shells. And the cool thing about big hollow shells is you can put literally anything you want inside of them. As I point out in the live portion of the build, this guy's head is the absolute easiest that you could possibly ever wire up with LEDs. There's enough space you could even put the entire battery pack and control board for the LEDs in here. You could program it to do all sorts of stuff. You could have lights in his eyes, and because he's got all this space in the head, all the space in the torso, you can maybe even fit a little servo down here if you like, and make yourself an animatronic Beargguy. The possibilities are nearly endless. Originally, when I purchased this model, I was just planning on it being a one-off joke kit that I would just snap together and maybe throw off on a side shelf somewhere and never really look at again. But after seeing what this guy packs under the hood, and seeing just the sheer customizing potential this model has, there is no way I can leave this guy unpainted. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with him yet. I'm thinking since I've already got the top hat and the mustache, I could maybe go for kind of a steampunk vibe. I don't know, steampunk's kind of overdone, but I think I could make it look pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go with steampunk, because he's got the cyborg limbs. That could look pretty cool. Paint him up in bronze. That'd look awesome. I could put some LEDs in his eyes, maybe find something to put in his chest. There are a ton of options with this model, and I can't wait to see what I'll be able to do with it. And even if you're a more seriously minded Gunpla fan who doesn't want to build a giant frickin' bear, well, guess what? This guy's based off the Papagguy, and the Papagguy is pretty darn realistic looking. And because of that awesome partial inner frame and just the level of detail this kit has, you could have a lot of fun with this kit. Never before have I seen a model kit that has screamed so hard to be customized. In the end, the high-grade Build Fighters Papagguy and all of its Beargguy and Papagguy brethren aren't just models that I recommend you pick up. They're models I recommend you pick up and make your own. Paint them, weather them, stuff some electronics in there, make them move, make them do whatever you want. This is an awesome model that has so much modding potential, and I recommend that all you guys go out, pick one up, give it a try, and see what you can do. And finally, do I recommend the Papagguy over the other Beargguys? Well, I don't know, guys. Mustache, cane, top hat, I think that's a pretty cool set of accessories. And even if you're going to customize this guy, there is a lot of fun stuff you could do with these. So yeah, I'd say I recommend the Papagguy. He gets a big old thumbs up. So that is it for tonight, guys. Don't forget to leave a like on this video as always, and share it around with your friends so they can see just how awesome the Bear Guy can be. If you're new to Channel 2S, be sure you subscribe for more awesome Gunpla content, and make sure you hit that notification bell because I live stream from time to time and you don't want to miss that. And as always, I'm your host, Second Soundwave, and I'll see you next time.